Hi everyone, this is Dr. Labib and welcome to Reframe Your Health podcast. Beside me is Dr. Yusuf, and today we're going to talk about environmental toxins or toxins in general. We've been bombarded with questions about toxins, and it's a very hot topic nowadays. Yes, we are surrounded by toxins, and we're gonna dig deep into toxins. What do they cause, and how we can get rid of them, and whether our health will improve by getting rid of toxins. So first, it's very important to kind of define what toxins are. Uh, Toxins, Yusuf, are basically chemicals that could be found in nature.
Yeah.
This is the original definition of toxins, but today most of our toxins are made by humans in factories. So we are causing, ourselves to be exposed to toxins, but most of the toxins actually are not that harmful.
Yeah.
So this is very important. Not when we say toxin doesn't mean it's bad, but some of these chemicals that we are calling toxins, get eliminated from our body very easily and are not a reason why we are developing diseases. But some chemicals are poisonous to our body. So that's what we need to stress, that some of them are bad, and it's important to know which ones, be knowledgeable, and have an open mind to what are the ones that are really dangerous.
If you were to ask me maybe a year ago, I would have pretty much brushed it off, completely ignored it, and really didn't give it that much attention. But nowadays, because it's obviously a lot of people are talking about it, it's really good to ask questions.
Right.
The first questions that we have to ask ourselves, and everybody should, is what are toxins?
Yeah.
What makes something become toxic?
Yeah, like you said, people are talking about. It's not only like physicians and people. It's actually, the CDC, ACOG, our college. So a lot of these, big, bodies of medical experts, have been talking about them for a long time, but we were not maybe paying attention. Now I think we reach a threshold where we're seeing a lot of chronic diseases and problems, and this is where toxins are becoming part of the things we look at when somebody has a problem. What are toxins? Of course, toxins are chemicals that can get into our body through many routes. So we can either inhale them, we can, they can get into our body through the skin. We can ingest them. Of course, most of them get ingested. So they can get to our body in different ways. And, the way they act, some of them just, poison the cells and make the cells, they paralyze cells and make them stop functioning or producing energy or ATP. And some of them act like hormones. So they go into the cells and, instead of, the cell responding to estrogen, for example, this chemical pretends it's estrogen and makes the cell, produce things that are not supposed to be done, because it's acting like a hormone, or it blocks the hormone, our natural hormone, to function correctly. So this is, to simplify how toxins work. Of course, there's a combination of toxins. Sometimes they work together and cause the dysfunction in our cells.
Right. So whenever we say hormones, we think of women. So how hormones, or how do toxins affect women in particular? That's one of the biggest questions that we raise and we have. So when we think of toxins and how do we affect women, how do they really cause problems in women? And are there more people that are more vulnerable than others?
Yes. Yeah, of course, like you said, it can affect any person. Okay, it can affect men, kids, and of course, because we are, into women's health, women are, our priority. But of course, toxins can affect
anybody.
Men. Yeah. How it does it? Of course, like any other, human, women do have ovaries, do have a lot of glands, thyroid gland, adrenal glands, the ovaries. So everything can get affected by toxins. Anything that's, reproducing, anything that has receptors, anything that produces hormones can theoretically be affected by chemicals. But it all depends on the chemical we're talking about. Yes, there are some women that are more vulnerable than other. Of course, women that are pregnant or trying to get pregnant, you don't want them to have a high toxin load in their body, because this can lead to complications, miscarriages, and pregnancy complications. It can affect at the end the baby, and the baby can be born smaller than what's supposed to be, and this has long-term consequences. So yes. Now, I'm just mentioning toxins in general, but there are specific toxins. For example, phthalates, which is one of the chemicals that we find in plastics that makes the plastic durable and flexible. This has been associated, and I keep saying associated. It doesn't mean it's a cause. So it's probably a player in that cascade of problems, but it's there. So and we are seeing more problems, chronic problems like PCOS, heart disease, cancer, asthma, all this, and it cannot be explained by genetics.
Right.
So there has to be something.
So our bodies, Labib, they have ways to remove toxins.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We remove toxins by our kidneys, by our liver, the skin, and lungs. So basically, that's how we excrete
and
toxins.
our GI tract, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, we don't want everybody to be terrified, right? So our body is great at eliminating toxins. The problem comes to be when we overload these systems, right?
Constantly overload.
Constantly.
Yes,
so when you have, for example, you have 4 doors, and then there are 4 guards at these doors protecting the house, and you have people or burglars trying to come in through these 4 doors. But imagine having 4 burglars trying to come in, 1 through each door, then you're able to fend them off.
Right.
But when you have 8, 16, when you have double that amount,
overwhelmed, yes.
you get overwhelmed. You don't want to overwhelm your detoxification system. This is when the problems come to be. And unfortunately, with our new age, the era that we're living in, the industrial revolution that followed by our current lifestyle, we are surrounded by things that can unfortunately carry toxins, whether it's in the air, whether it's in what we eat, whether it's where we sit, what we touch. Exactly. And the key is to not to overwhelm your system. And we mentioned earlier people that are vulnerable. People who are vulnerable, those with liver disease, kidney disease, lung disease, having chronic inflammation, autoimmune disorders. When your immune system is already overwhelmed, this is when these toxins become a problem.
Bigger, exactly. So, like you said, this is one part, and then the other thing that people should understand is, when you used to say toxins, you think about poison, you think about high levels of a poison. For example, high levels of lead or mercury, and eventually people die from those. But this is not what we're talking. We're talking about consistently being exposed. So some of these chemicals can stick in our body.
Right.
They go into the fat, into the muscles, and they can stay for years and slowly accumulate. And our body sometimes has difficulty getting rid of them.
Right.
Some of these, heavy metals, they get and stick in our bones. So, for example, pregnant women, when they are pregnant, they want to, release a lot of the calcium from their bones. And if their bone is full of mercury or lead, they can release this into their system, and this can expose the baby to more toxins. So it's not only a big dose of toxins, it's, this constant multitude, and then inability to clear it from your liver, from your gut. And then plus the toxins, it's very important to mention that they can not only poison our glands, they can poison our gut, lead to dysbiosis, and then this is gonna lead to the problems that we all know. So it becomes also like a vicious circle. But again, some of the toxins or some of the chemicals that we've invented, as I was a chemistry major, so I love chemistry. But a lot of the chemicals we invented, plastic and other things, make our life easy in a way, but they can also have a harm. So I think being exposed in moderation and eliminating the big things are something. Right. So the world of toxins is real. I discovered it myself through my own experience. My toxin levels were extremely high, and I had to do the test because I wasn't feeling well. I had a lot of inflammation and fatigue and tiredness. So I dug into and I asked why. So I found out that my toxin levels are high. So by changing few things, I was able to lower my levels, and I felt better.
Right.
Now that I'm not, at my perfect optimal health, but I feel much better than, let's say, from a year ago. So baby steps are important, but this problem is real. and it's increasing.
The problem, the question, Labib, is when should somebody get tested? Should everyone get tested? And when should we get tested?
You know, like if you test, you know, there have been multiple studies where they've tested people, and actually there's a big, you know, cohort of people that was tested. Around 90% of them had phthalates in their body.
Yeah.
So, but do all of them have issues? No.
Yeah.
Because some of them can eliminate it in a different way. Also, genetically, you know, people are different in elimination. Some people can eliminate more than others, and depending on the chemical. So, testing at this point is not recommended for everyone. Not in pregnancy, for example. But of course, there are special populations that are more prone. So it all depends on your occupation. So it's very important to, you know, ask patients, go through a questionnaire, a detailed questionnaire. Where do they work? How much they are exposed? If they're exposed at home, if they have mold, if they have, you know, new paint like at the house, what are the things they used to eat to heat their food? So you have to dig deep into their. So yes, let's say a woman that's actually works in a nail salon parlor, then, you know, she's more prone for these chemicals all day long. So yes, she might be someone that we might test if she's contemplating pregnancy. But no, there's no recommendations to test everyone. The CDC recently came up with, you know, a recommendation that technically you can, you know, test for PFAS, these, you know, type of chemicals we find in cookware and other things. But again, this is not yet a full-blown, because they're expensive tests. But there are people that, let's say, you know, we try to, you know, find a cause of their GI dysbiosis or their infertility, and we don't find anything, we might, you know, get into testing their toxins.
So basically, it's an add-on test.
Yes.
Like a,
We're not advocating everybody gets tested, but we're advocating everybody lower your load of toxins.
Exactly. Now, how do people avoid toxins? That's
there's no way to avoid it completely. So if you say
reduce,
avoid, there's no way, and I think it's probably good to be exposed a little bit to toxins and let your body, you know, be under stress.
Correct.
Because, you know, stress is good, but chronic stress is bad.
It's not good.
So being exposed to chemicals and eliminating it from time to time is not an issue, but you don't want to be exposed constantly. How do you eliminate it? First, you have to find out, you know, where are you getting exposed to mostly? So, you know, sitting down, thinking about how your day starts from the moment you wake up, you know, from the bed sheets you sleep in until you get to the bathroom, to brush your teeth, to shower, from the water you're drinking, from the coffee you're drinking, your car, your office. So it's everywhere. But if you start thinking about it, you're going to get crazy and overwhelmed, and you don't have to do this. You just kind of try to find something that you think can explain your symptoms, or even if you don't have symptoms, try to eliminate as much as possible tiny things.
That's what I encourage people to do. I coach them to do. So instead of drinking your water constantly from a plastic bottle, avoid doing that. Use a glass cup.
Or stainless steel bottle, you know, just fill it with water and, you know, take it around, and make sure your water is filtered and clean.
Correct.
Because this
now,
is another thing.
Pesticides are also a big thing. So we know that there are things that are heavy on pesticide. I always encourage people to buy organic, at least the Dirty Dozen, which people can find on the Environmental Working Group website. These are the 12 produce that have been tested, and they have been found to have high levels of pesticides. And these 12, which, you know, every year the list gets updated, and that list can be found on the EWG website.
Yeah. Even if they call them dirty, but they are good, so get them in an organic fashion. Although organic might be more expensive, but in the long run,
these 12.
Exactly. You don't have to get everything in organic, but at least the Dirty Dozen.
Right.
Because again, in the long term, I think even, you know, they're more expensive now. You're going to end up putting those in hospital bills and medications.
Are there ways to remove pesticides from vegetables?
Yes, of course, definitely. You know,
fruits.
Washing your vegetables, scrubbing your vegetables, you know, soaking them in vinegar, bicarb. There are, you know, special, you know, chemicals that can be used, but, you know, cheap things, you know, vinegar and bicarb. Yeah, this will remove a lot of the pesticides.
So basically baking soda.
Baking soda, yes.
A little bit of water.
Yeah. And sometimes, unfortunately, you can't completely remove them, especially, like, say, some of the fruits that have, you know, a thick skin. Sometimes some of these pesticides get into the flesh of the fruit. But the less you're exposed to, the better.
Especially if you're prone, especially if
Yes,
you're somebody
exactly.
who is suffering from PCOS, suffering from endometriosis.
And kids. I think kids, because they're growing, and you don't want to expose them from childhood or in utero before they're born to these pesticides, because these can have been associated with other long-term complications like autism and behavioral problems and neurodevelopmental disorders. So kids, I think, are very vulnerable, especially because kids, they're all over the place. They're underground, putting things in their mouth, so they're exposed to a lot of things, and their liver detox system is not as potent as an adult. So kids, pregnant, trying to get pregnant, older people with chronic problems.
So people with chronic disease, PCOS, endometriosis, perimenopause, young, and people with cancer.
Almost everybody, but
unless you're extremely healthy and your detox organs are functioning perfectly fine, which again, don't overload them.
Exactly.
Okay, now we mentioned a few toxins. The major ones that we would like to talk about are phthalates, which are common in plastics, and PFAS, which is common in water. Unfortunately, these are called forever chemicals. Pesticides, herbicides. So these three main things that are hidden.
Exactly.
They're not the obvious toxins that people should avoid. These are the hidden ones that people should minimize exposure to. So we spoke about phthalates and plastics because they can affect women in general, because phthalates are endocrine disruptors.
Actually, phthalates have been, they found them in cord blood of babies.
Oh wow!
So, and then the plastics, plastic is not only the phthalate, it's also the small chips, the microplastics and nanoplastics. And recently there was a study out of Colombia that looked at a bunch of plastic bottles of water that were not even exposed to heat, because when they are exposed to heat,
it gets released.
Yeah, but even those were not exposed to heat, and there was around 200,000 microplastics.
Wow.
So, and these were actually found in placentas of babies.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, they are there. Yes. Are they causing the disease itself, the problem? Probably not, but definitely these are foreign things to our body and causing inflammation, which can lead to issues.
They're probably making things worse.
Absolutely.
So again, if you have somebody suffering from PCOS, for example,
Yeah.
and they have high levels of phthalates, this is going to increase insulin resistance, and that's going to worsen their cycle of issues. Yeah. So clearly, if you do have problems, if you have endocrine problems, avoid as much as you can.
Exactly.
Now, the second part is, how do you preserve your own detoxification system? How do you preserve your liver? How do you preserve your kidney? How do you preserve your skin? Because this is what's helping you eliminate all these toxins. So keep your liver healthy.
Absolutely.
Keep your liver healthy. Avoid things that can cause liver issues. So don't drink too much. Don't take a ton of Tylenol if you don't need to.
Right. Don't be overweight.
Don't be overweight. Yeah. I mean, it's easier said than done. Don't be overweight, but at least something. Alcohol is in somebody's hand. They can decrease the amount of alcohol that they're drinking. Kidneys. Protect your kidneys. Make sure that your blood pressure is under control. Make sure you're not smoking, because that can lead to kidney disease.
And hydration is key.
Right.
Hydrating, yourself will eliminate. Of course, sweating is another thing that's which you can either sweat through exercise, or even, now a lot of data, solid data about saunas. Saunas, whether, regular saunas or infrared saunas, something to make you sweat is important. It's going to get rid of your toxins. And at the same time, if you're exercising, you have the benefits of the exercise at the same time. So this is very important. When you come home, a lot of times we walk in with our shoes.
Yeah.
This is also big.
So take your shoes off.
Take your shoes off. The plastics is big. Like these plastic. I remember I used to keep my plastic bottle in the car and then drink from it sometimes. So, just by doing those small, tiny steps, we can eliminate things. And then strengthen our body, so like the liver, the kidney, our skin, to make sure that we get rid of toxins.
The number one recommendation is, if you suffer from problems, even if you don't suffer from problems, try to minimize toxic exposure.
Right.
Number two, keep your detoxification organs as healthy as possible.
Exactly.
Number 3, how do you expedite or how do you help your body clear these toxins? You mentioned sauna, sweating. It's great. So a sauna once or twice a week, whether it's infrared sauna or regular sauna, and regular exercise. Go out, sweat, eliminate those toxins. Drink a ton of water.
And then, of course, when you drink a lot of water, you're gonna, pee a lot. You're gonna filtrate, make your kidneys filtrate, and then your gut. The gut is very important.
That's
so
the last
really
one.
having a bowel movement every day is very important to get rid of toxins, because if they accumulate, they can get reabsorbed into our body. So all these, keep your systems in check.
Right.
Make sure everything is functioning normally, because the toxins can accumulate if they're not functioning, and then toxins actually can damage the liver and make it not function. So it becomes a vicious circle.
When I talk about the gut, I always like to give the example of the bathtub. When the bathtub is not draining well, what are you going to have? You're going to have a bathtub that's it's going to be over flooding. So you need your detoxification organs functioning perfect. You need to have, so constipation is a big thing. If you're constipated, you're not eliminating toxins.
Absolutely.
Something that I see it very commonly, that when I ask people about their bowel movement, they tell me, that's how I always been. It's normal that I go every 3 days.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily normal.
Right.
So
it's not normal. Yeah. You should eliminate, on a daily basis, these toxins, because they can, accumulate and make us feel, you won't feel well when you are constipated.
The last part of this, Labib, is if somebody gets tested and there are high levels of a certain heavy metal or extra toxins, and they've done all these measures, but they're still unable to get rid of that specific toxin per se, and they have a chronic disease, whether it's chronic inflammation, we mentioned PCOS, endometriosis, perimenopause, etc., cancer. Are there ways to eliminate specific things per se?
Chelate? There are some supplements that can help, bind to some of these heavy metals. If they are at very high levels, you can do chelation, which is also like a binding. And then now recently, there's a couple of centers that are doing what we call plasma exchange, where they exchange the blood, filtrate the blood. Again, it depends on your toxin and on the toxin level. But there are things to do, or just we support the liver to detoxify better. There are some genetic testing that can be done to see how your liver detoxifies, and then accordingly give them like glutathione, NAD. You can support the liver to clear up things, or even your kidney to clear up certain toxins. Again, it's not a perfect science. Toxicology is a perfect science, but when it comes to the clinical toxicology, there's a lot of things we still don't know. And then the best thing for anything is prevention.
Right.
But yes, if you reach a point where the levels are extremely high, then yes, there are centers that are specialized that can help you detoxify. So the most important is not to get back to your cycle and then reaccumulate toxins. Yes.
So avoidance, supporting the detoxification process of the body, the supplementation. Now you mentioned supplementation. This is for somebody who's has a chronic condition that we want to supplement them. There are a few options that we can use. You mentioned glutathione. We can use the precursors of glutathione. NAC is one of them that I use frequently in my practice. And then obviously the advanced chelation. This is for the advanced cases.
And the most important is to be smart and have open eyes on the things that you're buying. Go to the grocery shop and shop smartly. Try to get things like produces that are from the farm all the way to your table without putting them in plastic packaging, or of course then meat, fish, dairy. All this has to be also. We can talk for a long time about these things, but there are certain type of fish that you need to avoid because they have higher levels of mercury. Also the grass-fed meat is better than the grain-fed meat. So there's different things that one can do to eliminate. And then there are actually applications out there that I use quite a bit. You just scan products that will tell you.
What do you use? Which
not to give them any commercial, but there's Clearia is one. There is Yucca. There is the one by the EWG. Think Dirty.
Think Dirty. I use Think Dirty.
Yeah. So and then there's another one called Think Safe, I think. But yeah, there's multiple things,
so
and you can use them all, and see which one.
What should people do with these apps? Basically, download the app. You're buying something, scan the barcode.
Exactly. It will tell you, the levels of, the chemicals inside and then how bad they can be.
Yeah.
And then accordingly you decide, you try to get the one that is less toxic.
Obviously, do not obsess a lot.
Exactly.
If you are a healthy person, you're preserving your liver, you're preserving your kidney, you're not suffering from chronic conditions, do not obsess too much. Obviously, it's something good to have. We're talking about keeping you healthy.
And keeping your family healthy.
If you're healthy, we're talking about keeping you healthy. Yeah. So do it to a certain point of time. You want to preserve your body to the longest possible time.
Exactly.
Okay,
so yeah, I think in summary, yes, keep an eye on toxins. Always think about them when you're not feeling well and you've tried everything and there's still something missing.
Right.
They might be one of the causes. Don't be perfect. You cannot be perfect and be completely toxin free. Try to eliminate toxic things in your life. And then
basic
again, when we talk about toxins, now we're talking about environmental toxins, but there's a lot of other toxins that I like to talk about is emotional toxins, relationship toxins, media toxins, like being on social media all the time. And this is actually toxic to our health and to our brain and our mind. So it's not only the chemical things. So there's a lot of toxins in our life that by also eliminating them and trying to avoid them if we can.
You boost detoxification.
Absolutely.
Pathways.
I mean, like, again, if you are always on your social media, comparing yourself to others, you have toxic relationships, you have, annoying
chronic
boss
stress.
at work, chronic stress, financial toxins. Actually, if you have issues with your all this can accumulate also and add to your to your health, and then lower your vitality and then your energy. So I hope we did not overwhelm people. I think this episode was an eye opener. There's a lot of information out there about toxins. There are courses about toxins, books about toxins that people can read if they're interested in knowing more. And again, if things are not getting explained by the usual testing, think about toxins. I think that's the message.
That's the take-home message that we want to give the people, not to be overly scared, but if they have a chronic condition, try to implement these 4 things that we had mentioned in this episode. And we want to thank everybody for watching this. We'll be waiting for your comments. If you have anything that you want to add to this episode per se, please feel free. Also in your comment, let us know what topics you would like us to cover in the future, and we'll happily bring it to you. Thank you.
Take care and see you next time.